All right, well, shall we just jump right in?
Let's do it, sister.
Let's do it. Welcome back.
Welcome back to Literally Nothing Matters. We're so excited to be here today.
So excited. It's a lovely, crispy fall Sunday.
Hmm.
The air be crispin'. I need to get out there and take Poe for a W. He's actually
I
just
know.
standing here staring at me, being like, hello, is it
I know.
time?
I know. I need to do that too, but we got breakfast this morning, so everything's a little pushed back, a little delayed. So the dogs are mad, but that's okay. They'll
What'd you
survive.
get? What'd you get? Anything good?
I get the exact same thing every single time I go to breakfast. I also eat the same thing every single morning I make breakfast. But when I
Yeah.
go out to breakfast, I get a cheese omelet, sourdough bread, and my home fries well done every single time.
Sounds like an amazing order.
You just like can't lose, Like there's no questions. It's like you can't really F it up.
Yeah.
So I
What kind of
just
cheese in the omelet? That's an important question.
American. I'm pretty boring. I might spice it up at some point, but not
Goat cheese in
today.
an omelet is to die.
Yeah, I don't know if I can have goat cheese. I don't know. I like don't really know about the cheeses when you're pregnant because they say no soft cheeses. I don't know what that means.
Oh, I like forgot about those rules. Yeah. I
Yeah,
feel like goat cheese counts as a soft
I
cheese.
would think so, but like who knows? And then again, you think about different countries and they're all eating like raw fish over in Japan while they're
Right.
pregnant. And so like I think we're all gonna make it, but
Yeah. You'll
just
be
one of
fine.
those things. It's not as bad as, having a shot at your bachelorette party like I did when I thought it was a mocktail. Do you remember that?
Sure do. And
Mhm.
someone, yeah, they handed you a quote unquote mocktail. It
Mocktail.
was actually
A tequila sunrise.
a full tequila drink.
Yep. Yep. I got a nice shot of tequila, so that was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. The baby instantly was just swimming around.
I was like, that's not a mocktail. They're like, oh no.
Like, yeah, your face was just like,
Well, it's funny because
that's
like when you
tequila.
don't have alcohol for a while and then you taste it, you're like, whoa, that's overwhelming, but that's
Yeah.
okay. That's okay. People drink through their whole pregnancies, so I think one little sip will be okay, but it
You'll
was
be you'll be good. But like if you're gonna have a sip, that's not what you want a sip of. Like you want a sip of like delicious
totally.
wine or like something that you actually want to taste.
Yeah, and I'm not a hard alcohol girly anyways, so but that's okay. I had my fun, my craziness at your bachelorette
You had
party.
a crazy wild night out.
Uh, Anyways, so let's get started. We're going to do kind of like a splitsy. We're going to talk about the book that we just read. We're going to give you an update on our lives
Yeah.
and just kind of shoot the shit a little bit.
Yeah, girl. Well, let's start with Rose Thorn.
Let's do it. What's going on in your life, girlfriend?
Well, Rose would definitely be the bachelorette party.
Yeah.
I was unwell. It was almost a little bit of like, you should look into this, girlfriend, and get professional help because I was so like emotional afterwards and like grateful and felt like I needed like legit was like drafting out these like novels of text to
Oh my
everyone
God.
about how like I don't deserve your love. And like I had to take a step back and be like, you do like deserve it a little bit. So just like accept it and say thank you and just soak up the happiness. Like chill the fuck
Yes.
out.
Yes. It was
Sorry.
honestly like my favorite bachelorette party I've been to. And that's
Oh,
saying a lot to be pregnant at a bachelorette party because like
yeah.
you're kind of like, oh, this is gonna be, like you're just gonna have to like get through it because you're probably gonna be tired, you're gonna be out late, you're just like going with it. But it was honestly like if I were to draft up the perfect time, it would have been that. Like you were so casual, we could do what we wanted to do. We had so much fun. We just like did girly things and it was so
Yeah.
nice.
Well, I'm glad that you felt that way because I felt that way.
Yeah, it was so nice and just like no stress, no pressure for anything. I loved it.
Good. That's like the feeling, the vibe that I wanted to give out, but you never
Yeah.
know like how people are actually, perceiving it
Yeah.
on the other side. I also was laughing looking back when you were recording the Bachelorette episode and how I was like, the dress up themes are too much. Don't make everyone match. And then like you guys did that, but in such like a perfect way. But I felt like such a bitch that I had said that.
No, it was so beautiful. I think it was exactly what you kind of described because we did like, so let's just describe how our bachelorette party went
Yeah.
for our little schedule.
Yeah,
So
let's go through the
I wasn't there
itinerary.
on Thursday. What did you do on Thursday night?
So Thursday, a group of us took the ferry over, and then we got to the Airbnb, and they sent me to, or me and one other girl went to the grocery store, did that, and then went back to the house, but they were still like setting up decorations. So I lounged in the backyard
Love.
which was like hilarious because I was like lounging on this like wonderful backyard set while I
This
could just
house was
see.
insane. It was
It
so
was like
nice.
the best, besides when like it sprung a leak, but
But
talk about
honestly,
that when we get
yeah,
there.
we'll get there when we get there.
um, which was like hilarious because I could just see like because it was bright out, so you can't really see inside, but I could just see like heads running around and balloons like blowing around everywhere. So they like set up the decorations and it looked so cute. And then we went to this little like jetty beach bar, got mudslides, got some like fried seafood dinner, and went back to the house, chilled, and then went to bed. It was like amazing. Just like so
The
chill.
best.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on Friday, we stayed in and we got pizzas and we dressed up as the Era tour for Mandy.
Yeah,
And
that
that
was
was so
amazing.
much fun. I feel like that was just so simple and like hysterical. And you obviously loved it, which I feel like is so important because like
I was
that's what you're
crying.
there for.
Like
Yeah, you were cracking up.
I was dying laughing. You guys were so funny. I also just wasn't expecting it. Like we went to Cisco during the day and like had a good time. There was live music. There were dogs everywhere. There was this one dog that I ran into 25 times throughout the
Mm-hmm.
weekend. Jack,
Jack.
my
Yep.
love.
Yep.
Um, and so I was like, just like the happiest buzzed when I got home. I took a shower out in like the outside shower, and then we did the Eras tour. And I was just sitting in the kitchen, and all of you guys were like scurrying around upstairs. And I was like, what is actually
Mhm.
happening right now? And
Yeah.
then I just died of laughter.
If you want to see that, head over to our reels because it's
Yeah.
epic. And
Yeah.
then on Saturday, we went to the beach, which was so lovely. It was so chill and like
It was
whatever.
amazing.
There's no one else on the beach too, which was incredible. I feel like September was a fabulous time to go to Nantucket.
It was amazing. I loved that the house had bikes too.
Yeah.
We got to like bike to the store and I got our breakfast sandwiches, like just living that island life.
Yeah.
Also, did Becca coordinate for everyone to wear black bathing suits?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't even put two and two together until I was looking at all the pictures and I was like, hold the phone.
Yeah. But of course, in her little like sense, she was like, yeah, if you guys have a black bathing suit, but don't go out and buy one. It's
Oh,
like,
good,
oh
good.
my God. I mean, you
Luckily,
can't
I
make
feel
it
like
any easier.
everyone has a black bathing suit
Yeah, no,
because
exactly. It was just so
what color
funny
looks
because
better on
you
any.
Braybeck sisters are all like the best and just so like kind and loving and easy breezy. And I feel like that just makes it so much better.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we went to the beach and then we got some bougie ass dinner and
Was
like
a
felt
bougie
like
ass dinner.
queens. I loved it. We got all these like little tapas style, I guess.
Mm.
And even as a vegetarian, I think I probably ate more than anyone at the table.
They had some good vegetarian options.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was
It
a
was
good dinner,
fabulous.
but then that's where it took a turn for the worst for myself
Oh, I was like,
personally.
for don't speak for me. I had a great night.
You're like, I had a wonderful
I'm
time.
like, excuse me, don't talk about my weekend like that.
Listen, I had a great night as well, but I just was not expecting it to take such a turn. So
Mhm.
Mark's best friend lives on Nantucket, and then one of his other best friends was on the island for the weekend. And so we went to a bar, all the ladies after dinner went to a bar and grabbed a drink. That was when Caitlin was drugged with tequila.
I was just
And
drinking. No big deal.
mhm. Caitlin was just like drinking all
I
the
was just
tequila on the
having a
island of
cocktail. Yeah,
Nantucket. Like,
pretty
it's
much.
fine.
It's fine.
She's just like a chill mom, you know?
I'm just a cool mom.
Yeah. And we were all about to get in an Uber home, and we were like, let's go home and watch like that new interactive rom-com on Netflix. Like, we'll watch Bridesmaids. We're gonna lay down.
You were so pumped for it.
I was down for
Yeah.
it. like I had a few glasses of champagne at dinner. I was feeling myself and I was
Mhm.
like, we have reached the peak. Let's go be horizontal.
Yep.
But one of Mark's friend that was there was like, "Oh my God, we like just bought you a drink. Come have a drink." And so I felt bad.
As the
I was
Ubers were
like,
showing up, and I was like, "Well, this girl's getting in the Uber."
right. Oh my God, 100%. So I like ran out and I just told everyone, I was like, I'm gonna have a drink with them and then I'll Uber back. And one of our other friends stayed with me. But little did I know that it was just gonna like take a turn, which I should have known
Yeah. I
instantly.
knew the moment I heard that she bought you a drink. I was like, "Goodbye, Mandy. Farewell. We will
Yeah,
see you
like I
next
feel
year."
like it just like be real, girlfriend,
Yeah.
be real. But it was super fun. Like Mark's friend that lives on the island, his girlfriend is a sommelier at another restaurant, and they just opened up like a speakeasy in like the basement of the restaurant, or like I don't
I didn't
even
even
know.
know you went to some another place.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Literally,
God.
Ian looked at me after I had the glass of champagne that Darcy bought me, and he goes, "So are we gonna have a night tonight?"
Oh my God.
And at that point, I was like, I guess so.
We're gonna jump off the deep end. Okay.
Yeah, so he took me to that speakeasy, me and Galen, and then I drank all of the champagne on the island of Nantucket, never
Yes, you did.
switched to something else.
No.
Went home. Galen and I were having a giggly little time out on the porch, projectiled all over the hydrangea bushes, champagne just coming out the nose. There is like a hilarious picture, which I don't know if I can post on Instagram, but I've never seen someone with so much joy radiating from their body as they're puking. Like I'm just dying laughing, like still having a great time. And then the next day was the worst day of my life. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because we literally had to take every single mode of transportation home as you do off of Nantucket. So we had to take an Uber. We had to take the ferry. We had to take the trolley. Is that what it's called? The bus to get back
it was
the
something.
car. And then we had the worst traffic
Peak
of our
traffic.
lives.
Ugh,
I don't know how you survived because I was obviously not hungover and I was nauseous on all of these things too. And I was
yeah.
praying for you the whole car ride home, which took almost 3.5 hours for me. I was like, I'm thinking of you,
I was in your thoughts
sending
and prayers.
prayers. Yeah.
Honestly, though, like it was such a this is one of my thorns was because like I had such a mix of emotions where like I'm glad that I like got that time to spend with like Mark's friends. That was like really nice of them and I did have so much fun, but at the same time like there is no worse feeling than a
Mhm.
hangover like that, and I like swore to myself that I would never feel one like that again. And I guess if you're gonna do it, it should be on your bachelorette party. Like it was
Yeah.
such a mix of emotions of like it is your bachelorette party. Like if there's ever to have a time like that, that is it.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I feel like I've also worked so hard on my relationship with alcohol that I was like really annoyed with myself that I like
Yeah.
just didn't stick to the boundaries that I set for myself and nowadays.
Okay.
And also like the people pleaser in me, or not even people pleaser, just like wanting to make sure that like everyone else was having a good time and like feeling bad that I like sort of felt like I ditched everyone. Even though I'm sure everyone was like, but right now we can just like
Yeah.
easily
I was
go
like
to bed.
pumped.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, at least you're to the point where you can kind of reflect on it and like come at it as just kind of like a reflection instead of like beating yourself up and making it into this big anxious thing and then just moving on, Donkey
Yeah.
Kong. Okay. Because,
Moving
like you said,
on.
it was your bachelorette party. It's not like this happens every weekend. Um, but I totally hear you because I feel the same way when that happens.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, I'm like mad that I was like so dead the next day. Like I could have went and got muffins with you and Emma and Katie and had coffee, and instead I was just like behind a dumpster throwing up before the
You
ferry.
were a champ though. You were a complete champ. Like when we were on the ferry, we were inside first and I was like, "Oh no, I can't do this." Like no one else said anything. And I was like, "How am I the one that didn't drink and I can't be inside on the ferry?" And I was like, "I'm going outside."
Oh,
And
I
everyone
was
was
glad
also
that
was
you
like,
did
"I'm
because I
gonna do
needed
that
someone else to
too."
speak.
And it was like kind of misting and we're all just getting like sprayed with water and we're like, "This feels so good."
Oh, I was actually wet. Like
Yeah,
sitting.
we all have sunglasses on, but it's dark.
Yes, I think there's a picture of me and you just sitting there
Yes,
like,
somewhere. Yeah.
mhm. But honestly, being outside on the ferry, I think saved me for like hours. Like I didn't get sick again until like a little while into the car trip. So that
Bless your heart.
blessings.
I know. I texted Emma and I was like, "How was she on her car ride back?" And she was like, "Not well." And I was like,
No.
"Thank God I was not with you because I would have been throwing up. If I see
Oh,
someone throwing up, I'm like, nope, it's
I
happening."
felt so bad. I threw up probably like 3 times in the car ride.
But
And I
like
was
they
just
all
like,
always throw up, so I'm sure they were like, "Whatever."
that's true. For the people that were in the car, like, thank goodness. Cause like I feel like Emma is used to it.
Yeah, that
Cassie
girl throws
always
up
is
a
throwing
ton.
up because she has like
Yeah,
stomach ulcers and motion sickness.
yeah, yeah. I would be like
Yeah.
crying. I'd be like, "Stop it!
Yeah, I feel like we have to, right? Get out of the car.
Get out, Bride!"
I feel like we have to give like an MVP award to Cassandra Sudak.
Oh my God, she is another one that is just insane. Like cracking up and then like looks over and throws up. I'm like, what is
Literally,
going
this
on?
girl, dead sober, didn't have one drink the entire weekend, but her motion sickness is out of this world. And
Yeah.
the streets of Nantucket are
The
not for that.
drivers.
Cobblestones,
Wowzers. Yep.
like back road, like beach roads, potholes. Like every time you get out of a car, Cassie would be like 20 feet behind us, thrown up in a bush, and then run back up and be like, all right, I'm good.
Yep. I'm like, okay.
Camp, champion.
So all in all, it was lovely.
It was lovely.
Just take the throwing up away, and it was
Yeah.
honestly
Just
perfection.
take that away, and it was
It was
amazing.
my dream vacation, to be real. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I feel like we should do like a fall girls trip to Nantucket again.
Yes,
Like a girls wellness retreat.
I love that so much. So
Yeah.
much.
Hmm.
Okay, so was that your rose and your thorn?
Yeah, I have one other thorn just because there's a video to go along with it that I'll share eventually, but I locked myself out of the house on Friday.
Okay.
Like Mark, it was like middle of the day. Mark was at work, and I was like, I called him, and he was like, I can't leave it. Like I have meetings and stuff. And I'm like, I'm gonna be stuck out here for hours. I had Poe with me. It was like
Oh
sort of misting
no.
out. I
Mm.
was like so tired. I had things I wanted to get done. And so I scaled the wall like Spider-Man
Oh
and
my God.
snuck in through the window.
That's
I
hysterical.
literally stacked like garbage cans on top of each other, climbed them, and then still had to like jump and dive through the window. And
Wow.
right before I was about to do it, I was like, you know what? For the community, this must be filmed.
That is hysterical.
So we'll
Can't
share
wait to see
that
that.
eventually. Yep.
Spidey girl.
Anyways, what's going on with you? What's your rose and thorn?
I love that. I'll start with my thorn. So my thorn has been that I've been feeling super lazy lately.
Mm.
And I feel like I get to this crossroads a lot where I'm just like, oh, I just need to just like sit down. My body's telling me to just sit down. And so I
Yes.
do, but then I feel guilty about it. And I'm like, oh, but I should be doing this. I should be doing this. And so I've been kind of like trying to figure out if it's my body telling me to slow down or if I'm falling into the whole like the body that stays in rest
Yeah.
or the body that's in rest stays in rest type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just hard being pregnant because you're trying to be really sensitive with your body and
Totally.
like listen to all the signs like everyone tells you to. And so it's just like, oh my God, I just don't know the answer. Like when I do chill all day, my body ends up being achy because I'm just sitting, you know? So I
Yeah.
feel like I need to have more of a balance because there are days where I go like balls to the wall and clean the whole house and do all these crazy things. And then the next day I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna sit on the couch. And then I feel guilty about both days. And so I feel like I just need to find more of a balance, but it's harder said than done.
I mean,
So I'm just
totally. You're
lazy a lot.
literally pregnant and have a like 1-year-old.
Yeah, I
Like you
know.
got a lot going on.
I do, but it's just an annoying feeling, you know?
I know. I feel like it's a struggle when you want to live more like intuitively, but sometimes it's like, okay, is this my intuition or am I just being a lazy sack of shit? Because I
Yeah.
truly cannot tell.
Right. Yeah, that's the best word for it. I just want to live intuitively, but I do believe that like a body in rest stays in rest, and a body
Yeah.
in movement stays in movement, all of those things. So,
Well, maybe you make a
anyways,
little like
figure that out.
routine for yourself, like
Yeah.
whether
But
it's
then I
just,
also don't really love that either of like
I know.
living to like every day, like, okay, on Monday I'm going to do a load of laundry and on Tuesday I'm going to clean the floors or something like that. I'm like, that doesn't feel right for me. Like
Yeah.
the same thing with a workout schedule. Like I just feel like that's where I can kind of do well with my intuition and knowing
Yeah.
which ways my body wants to move. And so I feel like sometimes getting locked into those things is like more detrimental than helpful.
Oh, totally.
But that's my complaint. And my rose
A relatable
is
one.
my rose is something that I shared with my husband the other day. And I was like, should I say this out loud? Because I feel like it might come off as um, I don't even know the word. Like just annoying, I guess.
Yeah.
But I said to him, I was like, we were sitting in bed and we kind of were talking about all the like plans that we have moving forward in the future. Like, of course, we're having this baby and he wants to get a bigger boat. And so that means selling the boat or not a bigger boat, a different boat.
Yeah.
Um, and we've been talking about kind of like maybe we want to try to get another house, like in New Hampshire or something, or buy property. So years later we can build on it or something. And we're always doing these things and talking about all the things that we still have to do. We both need a new car. We both need this. We're still doing this. And I was like, I just sat there and I was like, you know what? I've never been happier in my life though. And he
Aw.
was like, what? And I was like, honestly, like I think about my whole life trajectory and it's just incredible what we have and what we've built so far. And I just feel like I just had a moment, like a revelation. And I think it might be due to my hormones being crazy. But it's like so cool to actually think about where you've come from, and everything that
Oh.
you've accomplished. And I know some people might not be at a place where they feel that way right now. And that's why I was like, I don't know if I want to share this because I don't want to be triggering or be that person that like makes you feel bad. But it's like,
No, I don't think so. I think that's a
there's
good
just so much
perspective
to
to
be
have.
proud of. And I feel like we don't let the process of being proud of ourselves or being happy because we're just in the constant motion a lot of the time. So that was such a nice, just kind of like feeling. And I guess I hadn't felt that way before. So
I love that. That's not annoying at
Mhm.
all.
Yeah. And I'm also kind of like trying to process while not working. I've been coming up a lot of the times thinking like, well, what am I going to do? Like, what's my next accomplishment going to be? When we first started this, we talked about like introducing ourselves. And I always come back to that idea of like, we kind of come up with our accolades first. I'm a teacher, bless you.
Thank you.
All of these things. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, all of these things. But it's like, and I kind of am still stuck in that of like, all right, well, what should I be doing? Like, what are these big things instead of just doing what feels good? And so just being in that, realizing it is kind of powerful itself in itself.
Yeah, I think it's an important reminder for anyone. Like, you don't have to like be thinking about what property you're gonna buy or have like I don't know why the only thing that's coming to mind is home ownership, but like own a home to like be able to sit and
Yeah.
reflect. Like maybe it's like, wow, look at all of this like healing and growth I've done in therapy. Look at this like accomplishment I did at my job. Like there are so many things to just like it's like a perspective of gratitude and I think that's
Yeah.
important to reflect on
Maybe
cuz
maybe people just think that way in general, but for me this was a revelation.
no, I feel like our culture thinks very much the opposite, where it's always like, what's the next accomplishment? What's the next milestone? Like our society is so like, check the boxes, you know? So
Yep.
I think it's easy to get lost in that. That's
Yeah.
great.
So it's my rose and thorn.
I love it.
Love it.
I love it.
Okay. Should we jump into our book club?
Let's talk about the book
Oh
club.
my gosh.
The book club number one,
Ah,
the
I like it.
paper palace, the paper palace.
I was like, what? Did I have been saying that wrong the whole time? Oh my God.
Yes, you have.
I like that you have the copy because I rented it from the library, so I couldn't actually go back and like look at all of the chapters, and I had to look at your notes. I was like, perfect. I'll just bop off of her.
I mean, honestly, I wanted to buy it so that way on my bookshelf I can start a shelf of all of our book club books.
That's amazing. Look at you
So
thinking.
don't worry. I'll take care of it over there and
Thank you.
take the content.
Ugh. All right,
What were
so
your like
give
oh,
us a synopsis of what the story was about.
okay, so basically, so this is gonna like I hope you all know this is gonna be like girly time book club, not like literary scholar time book club. Especially
Hmm.
like I finished this book like over a month ago because I just read it when I went on like a fucking 9 hour car ride. Again, Aunt Debbie, I'm sorry. Um, so like I don't fully remember all the details. However, the
Mm.
paper Palace stars this woman, Elle Bishop, but it's also about generations of her family trauma with a big old
Hmm.
T.
Yeah, this is
So
big T trauma.
yeah, the story unfolds over 24 hours when Elle is being a naughty, naughty girl,
Mhm.
cheating on her loving British husband with her childhood flame Jonas. But it also unfolds over, I can't remember, like 50 years or something, talking about like her family legacy and all of the craziness that were her parents and her grandparents.
Yep.
Does that about sum it up?
That was beautiful. No, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Let's do our thoughts maybe, and then we can look at the discussion questions and see if we have
Okay.
anything to give there.
Okay. So I felt like when I was reading this, while I was reading it, I was so captivated by it because I feel like she was a great author.
Yeah.
She writes beautifully. She kept me focused on what I was reading because she was so like elegant and descriptive. You could kind of like paint the picture in your head. And
Mhm.
I feel like that kind of going to the wayside if you look at our literature these days of
Oh
just
my
like
God, yeah.
teen romance. I feel like that's like the most of the other stuff I read. I'm like,
Yes.
so that was cool to kind of like get something different. I also thought the plot was so captivating. It was like this one main plot and then all of these
Right.
different bubbles around it, which I feel like was really cool. And it made me reflect a ton and kind of like put myself in her shoes. And I was constantly questioning, like, what would I do here?
Oh my God, yeah. I totally
Yeah.
agree. I feel like in hearing this book, it could have been very confusing. It could have been like really like hard to focus because it like was so many different storylines and moving pieces and like 1 minute you're in the present day, 1 minute it's 50 years ago, but like I didn't feel that way at all. There were a couple times where I had to refresh like character names or whatever, but like the like descriptions and imagery, chef's kiss.
Yes.
Chef's kiss. There were a few times
Yes.
where I was like taken aback, where I was like, that was such a beautiful way of saying that.
Yeah. Yeah. But also in the other realm, going the opposite
Mhm.
direction, it also made me really uncomfortable at times because she is so descriptive
Yes, more
and there
trigger warnings, please. Like maybe I should have read into it more, but
serious
like,
stuff going on in the story.
dear golly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when okay, wait, I feel like I wrote down I feel like I have too many tabs open right now. Um okay, in chapter 2, my note was capital F her parents. Like honestly, so shocked that she didn't end up more messed up. Like they were awful to her. Like that quote from chapter 2, which was I think the first time where I was like and her
Yeah.
mom literally says to her, "You have to wash a plate. You don't get a lipstick. I had to give my stepfather blowjobs. All Austin had to do was masturbate him. What can I tell you? Life's not fair." Excuse me,
Mhm.
mom?
Yeah.
What do you mean, mom?
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah. There was a lot of that. And so I wrote down one of my notes too of like, it made me super uncomfortable at times because there was a lot of childhood sexual abuse
Yeah.
through the generations. And the way that it was handled made me kind of be like, oh, that's fake. Like this is totally a fiction story. But I think it was my mind's way of processing it to be
Yeah.
like, no, that can't be real because it was so like
Right.
disgusting to read.
Like a mom would never do that. A mom would
Right.
never put her kid in
Right.
that scenario. And like, I
Hmm.
think that's how, yeah, we process things and like protect ourselves when really like this stuff really does trickle down from generation to generation. And like, it does happen like that
Yeah.
a
Yep.
lot.
Yeah. And it is the reality of a lot of children, which is just insane. So I feel like that was something to reflect on too. And I also thought it was like a neat storyline to take childhood trauma and then see the effects of it as an adult because I feel like she was
Yeah.
dealing with things because of what happened when she was so young. And a lot of the time we like blame adults for things that they do, but it's like if you look at anyone's life, like I always come back to the quote of like hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
So like if you were hurt as a kid, you're probably pretty effed up as an adult, you know? But I also think the quote like healed people heal people. And
Hmm.
so it's like it's so unfair that kids go through this, but it's like the way you handle things um is really telling of who you can become.
Yeah. And I feel like it, not to like give her parents a pass by any means, but when you're dealing with your own, different things, whether it's, big trauma like this or, other types of trauma or whatever it is, um, it can be a little bit healing to recognize like where it comes from and like the fact like our parents are not heroes. Like, yes, it's their job to like love and protect us, but like they are also human beings dealing with their own experiences and trauma. And it can be, I think, sometimes healing, obviously, sometimes not, to realize that like, oh my God, like they went through their own things too. Like this is their own learned behavior from their own traumas.
Right. So one of the things that I kept coming back to was so Elle was sexually abused. She was raped as a child from her stepbrother.
Hmm.
And that was the biggest thing that you saw kind of throughout the story and the way that she was living her life today was because of this trauma, which makes so
Yeah.
much sense. And I just kept thinking about this big idea of there's so much pressure to not stay quiet when something like this happens. And so much of when I was reading, I was like, tell your mom what happened, you know? And it's like there were moments where like she almost did or she almost told someone.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but who am I to say, like, start your healing process, you know? And I kept coming back to the
Yeah.
idea of like, I would get mad at her because she wasn't saying anything. And I was like, okay, but I'm now being part of the problem because I'm putting pressure on
Right.
any women in these types of scenarios to like tell your story, don't be quiet. But instead, like, what if we offered support to all of women's decisions or people who went through this trauma and just trusted them to know what's best for them and when the time might be that they wanted to voice their opinion. Because I feel like just on the opposite side of like this type of sexual abuse, it's like I think that some people just need to like for themselves, like just accept it and that's their way of healing, you
Yeah.
know, instead of like
Totally.
sharing every detail. You know, I think that there's healing in both. And that was like an interesting concept for me to reflect on.
Yeah, totally. And like she didn't really grow up in the type of family that supported each other and were like soft with each other and opened up to each other. Like it was even interesting to me, like to reflect on how the two sisters dealt with their experiences differently. Like as far as we know, her name Anna, I don't remember. Um,
Anna.
yeah. Uh, we were never told of any like sexual trauma from her, but they still grew up with like the same, absent
Mhm.
father, unreliable mother, like the crazy stuff that the mom would do and say, and the guys in and out of the life and everything. And it was interesting to see how the two characters who grew up in the same scenario, like dealt with things very differently and also like didn't lean on each other, instead kind of like grew apart and chose to deal with things separately, which
Yep.
was super interesting. Um, and I feel like you actually see that a lot in
Yeah.
families too. And it's like, why does that happen rather than like, especially with two sisters, you would kind of think like, oh, they would, I don't know, become closer because of it.
Right. Right.
Um,
Um, okay. Who was your
but
favorite character?
wait, one more thing on
Okay.
the thing with like telling and everything. I felt
Okay.
like when like she felt so ashamed when Conrad, like she realized like what Conrad was doing, like
Yes.
sneaking into his room every night, and then like
Mhm.
when he raped her, how like it was such a reflection on how much of a problem it is the way that women are like taught about sex, and like the narrative about losing virginity, like you're losing this precious piece of yourself and now you're less valuable and now you're tainted and disgusting and like you should be so ashamed, and like she put so much shame on herself when really like he should have felt ashamed. Like he was the monster in that scenario.
Yeah.
And is it bad that like yeah, he was a kid, but like he would have grown up to be a very dangerous man, that like I was happy that she let him drown.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, good. I'm
100%. No,
like,
I felt
maybe
that
that
same
makes me
way
a
too.
psycho, but especially when you find out that he raped his own sister, like,
Yeah.
goodbye, you belong to
Yeah.
the ocean now.
Yes.
And
No,
like he
that's how I
obviously is
feel
a
too.
very hurt person too. Like bad things definitely happened to him as a kid, which is
Yep.
so sad because he didn't have to turn out like that. But like, goodbye, farewell.
Yes. Yep. No, exactly. I definitely was like, good riddance. Good
Yeah.
riddance. Um, yeah. Yeah. Wild.
Okay, carry on.
Okay. So I was thinking there were more characters in this story that I hated that I liked.
Yeah,
I was
that's so
like
true. Because when you
trying to
just asked me
find
that,
like
I
a
was like,
team. I was like, because you always try to find someone you connect to or that you want to root for. And I think that the only person I was like, oh, I really like this person was Peter, the one like
yeah,
getting cheated on, because he just seemed like such
I
a good
agree.
person and just like a solid like steady character throughout the story. But of
Yeah,
course, we hadn't seen his side of the story, which is always an interesting perspective too. Of like,
right.
there's always two sides to the story. So what's going on in your life? But no, he was definitely my favorite character. I just found like everyone else in the story, I was like, oh, I'm not fond of you. This is blah blah blah.
And no, I totally agree. I feel like Jonas pissed me off.
Yeah,
He was annoying. And
yeah,
like obviously the toxic version of myself that grew up with rom-coms and everything did root for them to be together a little bit.
yeah,
You know, like you catch yourself and you're like,
yeah.
no, Peter is
Right.
perfect. And like,
I
screw
know.
this guy. Like,
I
you're
know.
just fantasizing about what could be because you've never been allowed to go there.
Right. Yeah.
But she was
Um,
pissing me off, even though I felt bad for her.
I know.
Ugh.
I know. But that brings me to the idea of kind of like at the end of the story, I was thinking about this idea of lust versus love because I
Mm,
think you put on our Instagram story, which team are you? Like Team Jonas or Team Peter? And
yeah,
it's like at points, I totally agree where it was like your little teenage heart is like rooting for this lust,
right.
pure soulmate type of love.
But like,
But
it's
it's like,
not that.
no, it's not. It's lust and it's this kind of like it's such a hormone like high of oh what could happen, let me chase this person, and then it got me in thinking about like marriage, and I was thinking like
Mhm.
the idea that marriage, it's not a life sentence, okay, and it's always a choice, so like
Yeah.
you don't have to stay in something that you're not happy in. But knowing that marriage is more than lust is so powerful. And I feel like it just made me think so much about like, why would you even let yourself get to that point? Like, if you're really not
Oh
happy
my
with your
God, yeah.
relationship, like, you're not like in a death sentence, you know? Like when I got married, I always said to Chad, like before we got married, I was like, if we get married, we're never getting divorced. Like we're never doing it. And I remember because like my parents got divorced and his parents got divorced, and I was like so against it. And now I'm like all for divorce. I'm like, Chad, if you are unhappy, and he always says this to me too, like if you're unhappy, leave. Like leave
Yeah.
before we destroy what we have, you know? And luckily we're nowhere near that place, but it's like just
You're like,
know
divorce
that.
me, do it.
I'm like a Dario. But I think sometimes people just think of this marriage as like a jail, like you're here for life, you know? And it's
Right.
like, no, it's a choice. Like love is a choice.
I
And she
agree.
just like annoys me that she went and like messed things up. Because if you really feel like you shouldn't be in your marriage, then don't be in your marriage
And
and then
just
go
don't
and
be in
screw
it.
other boys. Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially where it feels like her and Peter had a very solid, steadfast relationship. Like she talked about, this was one of the imagery things that I remember being like, oh my God, this is so nice. She described Peter as like a birch tree or something like that, like so solid and rooted, but also like has a softness about him. And like, that's exactly a dream husband, you know?
Hmm. Yep.
And instead of like going and getting help for all of the stuff that she's been through, she just like lets herself get swept away in a big fat nothing burger
Yeah.
because of course it was such a sexually charged thing because it's been what, like 20 years or something of you pining for this person.
Mhm.
So when you're reading and you're all swept up in the emotions, you're like, there is that part of you where like, oh my God, it's so romantic. They have to be
Mhm.
together. When really, like, the reality is like they're two toxic, traumatized people
Yep.
that are just like blowing up their lives. Think of the kids.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
like, even if she chose like not to be with Jonas in the end, your marriage is never going to be the same because you're either going to be harboring that secret, which eventually will come between you, or like you're going to choose to tell him, which will come between you.
Hmm. Yep. Totally.
Not great.
Do you think that it also made me like, ugh, and this goes back to my point of like, let the survivor decide their healing journey. Like, I
Yeah.
wanted her to tell Peter so badly
Me
about the
too.
situation. And I wonder, like, what that would have done for their relationship if she was like more trusting in that
Yeah.
conversation. Because, like, I get not telling the mom in that because I feel like she
Mom
wasn't going to
showed her a
tell.
million times over that she can't really
Right.
be there for her.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, your husband. I mean, trust me, those conversations are not easy, but
Mhm.
it brings you so much closer to someone when you can open up to a really dark side of yourself.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
feel like Peter is the type, it seemed, that he would have just like been there for her.
Yeah. I agree.
Sad. Do you think, because they didn't really give like a very clear answer, do you think she ended up with Jonas or she stayed with Peter?
I know. That was
I
another
hated
thing.
that. I was
Led to
like,
the
give me a
imagination.
fucking
I
answer.
know. I know. I want to believe she stayed with Peter,
Yeah, I want
but
to too.
for how long, I do not know.
Right.
So, yeah.
But I guess like it does make it a better book because it
Yeah.
leaves
Oh,
you
for sure.
with such an emotional response and it kind of gives readers an opportunity to just, yeah, like leave it up to their imagination and like choose what they want the ending to really be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let me
Right.
just look through my notes real quick and make sure that I said all the things I wanted to say. Yeah, I totally did. Okay, all the questions that I found were like, I feel like literary.
Yes. I was like, I don't know how to answer this. Am I going back to school?
But should we try to answer them? And
How about I liked which one did I like? I think we talked about the like what's the outcome of keeping secrets
Yeah,
and
we
how does that play
definitely
out like
did.
just in your life. I think that that's something that is so meaningful. And then I like the idea of like think of a time you kept a secret. And I was like, do I still have a couple secrets up my sleeve?
You're like, oh my God, skeletons in my closet.
Mhm. And it's funny because I feel like I do, but they're more of like how I feel about situations. Like there's not
Mm.
like big things that have happened that I haven't shared, but it's more of like maybe I'm not being completely truthful in how I have felt about them.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
I'm not going to share that right now. So don't even come at me.
You don't even have to, girl. You don't have to.
Was there a question that kind of stuck out to you?
I mean, honestly, I just reread them and like, ugh, no. It's like, why was the novel called The Paper Palace? Like,
Oh my
we
God.
know why. It told us why, because the Cape Cod house. I will say that I loved that it was set in Cape Cod and like the imagery was so spot on. And Mark's parents' cottage is like set back in the woods with
Hmm.
all these different like trails and stuff behind it. And it's right across the street from a big pond, too. So
Yeah.
definitely not as like woodsy and campy, but like there were a lot of parallels that were fun to like imagine in my head because it's like one of my favorite places that like has a lot of meaning for me. So that was a big bonus cherry on top.
Hmm. But you know what? I think that this question is actually kind of interesting when it was like, why is it called the Palace? And then another question that correlates with that, what parallel exists between the camp and the people who inhabit it? Because I think
Mm.
it goes to this idea of like what's around you is actually what's inside of you. And so, like, if you look around your house and you're like, oh my God, it's so cluttered, I'm never gonna like get through all of this crap. It's like that's likely what's happening in your own head. And so I feel like, ooh, thank you, Marky Mark, coming out fresh out of donkeys. I love it.
I muted him so he wouldn't be on the pod, but he said that's right.
Surprised he's not wearing his hat.
No, no, right. Attack.
Um, but I just think that a lot of like, it's funny you walk into some people's houses and you're like, this makes sense. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Yeah.
like,
This
and I
is
think that
exactly what
that's,
I pictured.
yes, like this is who you are. And I think that that was cool that the author was that good of an author to be able to show like this house is so like easygoing part at the drop of a hat type of thing. And it's
Yeah,
made of nothing like structurally safe. The foundation is not there.
totally.
And I think that that's exactly what the characters were like too. Like, yeah, we're looking
Yes.
pretty, we're just like going with the flow, but like
But we
on the
are
inside, we
unwell.
are falling apart.
I also wonder, look at me using my AP
Mm.
literary brain. Um, if it could be like symbolism, metaphor, analogy, one of those words for like marriage itself or like Elle and Peter's marriage, where it's like it's the
Ooh.
thing you build up, but really it's like super fragile, especially when you don't have that foundation of like full honesty and like connectedness.
Yeah.
It all just comes
Yeah.
crumbling down.
Woo. I like it.
Look at us go. First pumpkin coffee of the seas.
How is it? Is this your first coffee at 11 o'clock in the morning?
Oh, no, no, no. First pumpkin coffee of the
Okay.
season.
Okay.
I did have a coffee at like 7 o'clock when I first woke up.
Okay.
I
Thank
also
God.
have not drank any water yet today. LOL.
I have been on a health kick. Here is my water. I put sea salt in it every
You
single morning
are.
with some lemon.
Oh,
Okay.
you're following the
Hmm.
rules that Katie told us.
Yeah, I'm too cheap to buy the actual like elements little packet. So I
Oh,
just,
they're so expensive. Every day I'm like, I'm gonna bite the bullet.
I
And
know.
then every day I have to buy something else for the wedding, and I'm like, tomorrow.
No, yeah, we're surviving. Okay, we're surviving.
Yes. Okay, what rating would you give it? How many stars?
Like a 1 to 5.
1 to 5. Five being the best, and one being a
Okay.
big
I
fan.
would give it a 4. I
Mm-hmm.
think because I wanted more answers and I wanted more of that just like I don't even know the word for it. I love when like things work out the way I want them to work out.
Oh, totally.
As anyone does. And so I wanted that like fairy tale ending, I guess. And so
Yeah.
that's just me and my personality. And so that's why I wouldn't give it a 5 out of 5. But the writing was so spot on. The characters were so interesting and it kept my attention really the whole time.
Yeah. Um, I would agree. I think maybe I would give it a 5 because I feel like one, I have come to realize in my reading journey that I am pretty easy to please. Like I give a lot of 5 stars and not that tough of a critic. I think I also realized that if I allow myself to fully like submerge into a book, like if, the environment is right, like an 8-hour car ride and then lots of pool time, you're gonna like it a lot more than if like you pick it up one day and then a week later you pick it up, which I've been doing
So true.
recently.
So true.
So
Whew.
yeah. Loved it. Would have liked some trigger warnings, which maybe I would have gotten if I Googled the book.
Yeah, that's on you, boo. No, I'm kidding.
But
Imagine if you opened a novel and it was like trigger warning.
trigger warning, rape and masturbation. But
Literally.
actually, if you're gonna read it,
Oh,
trigger warning.
yeah. I know. I actually feel
It's
like
good.
trigger
It's
warnings
not
are
like,
everywhere now.
yeah, right. Where like
Like life is triggering, okay? Just heads up. You're born. Trigger
it is.
warning.
Trigger warning, the world is icky.
The world's terrible.
The
Okay.
world's terrible, and that's all we got.
Yeah.
I
All
love it.
right. All right.
All
So
right.
that was good. We will decide on book number 2 and get back to you guys.
Yeah. We'll throw up a poll on the good old IG maybe
Hmm.
tomorrow
I like
and
it.
let us know what you're thinking.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right. Love you dearly. Follow us on
Bye.
Instagram. We've been popping off with
We are rich
our
and famous.
reels. So
Make
follow
sure
us
you like
there.
them.
Literally
Truth.
Nothing Matters Pod. If you want to look at our gorgeous faces, subscribe to our YouTube.
Yep.
And you can be one of our like 12 subscribers. Get in while it's
VIP.
fresh and new. Get on the ground floor.
You know
And
what? There was an exciting announcement. I'm going to put it out there right now so that we
ooh,
actually do it. We are going to be putting out merch. So after
yeah,
this
we
meeting,
are.
Amanda and I are sitting our little tushes down. We're not even getting up and we're figuring the shish out because they're
Hmm.
so cute to not be being sold right now.
So
But we
cute.
have just been hitting walls. So we're going to figure it out.
We are not graphic designers, but it is coming together. Sweatshirts, t-shirts, pop sockets, tote bags, phone cases. You're gonna freak out.
Yeah, they're actually wicked cute. I love it.
All right. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.